So I'm going to talk to you about the project, about the resources, and about what we hope will be the impact for our teachers in primary, and particularly for our pupils in terms of engaging them and motivating them to be wanting to be interested in their languages, as well as giving them some feedback on how well they're doing at things. So this is our logo. You'll see this all over the place. It'll be in the newsletters and so on. It's on the website clearly. And we're going to be learning the names of these animals a little bit later on. So please be prepared for that. There's a moment when it's going to be highly interactive so that we can do a little performance at the end. So this is the question you all have in your mind at the moment. As Annalise said, she has already tried. It's usually Natalie who does that. She just takes the hat because it's such a compelling thing. So the answer is yes, the hat is available. You can wear it if, I say if very sternly, if you're very, very good and if you give lovely feedback at the end of the session, then there is a selfie opportunity. You can come and borrow one of the three hats. So you can have the three witches or wizards or magicians together if you feel like it, and you can have your selfie photo taken. We have our own hashtag, as well as the LW 2018. We have LMagic, which is the language magician hashtag, if you want to be using that one too. So back to the hat later on. Our colleagues in the Language Magician team come from different countries around the European Union. So we have partners in Germany, we have partners in Austria, our technical partners in Italy, partners in Spain, partners in the UK. And one of our groups of partners who've been very active are our partners in the Canaries. Strangely, when I told them that we were going to be having our conference at Hinckley Island, I thought that might appeal to them. They might think, oh, maybe it's like Tenerife. We'll go to Hinckley Island and see if it's similar at all. But no, they preferred to stay in Tenerife this weekend rather than come to see us. But we are going to get a glimpse of them because we have a video of their children. So what I want you to do while you're watching this little clip of video is you're going to hear the Language Magician song, and I want you to see if you can tune in to the tune, because we'll need that later on. So try and listen to the tune of the song, which is in English, this version of it. It's available in all of the languages of the project. And also, at the same time, I would like you to look at what the children are doing. So piloting has been an important part of this project. As the game has developed, it's been piloted. It's now been piloted by around 4,000 children in 4 different countries who've given feedback and informed the development of the game. And this was a piloting that happened in Tenerife, and at the end of it, the children said they wanted to do something else to show what they'd been doing after they'd played the game. So they're doing what they call a freeze frame, showing you something about what they've been doing in the thing. So I'd like you to look at what they're showing you, and then at the same time, try and tune into the tune.
Crocodile and cat and bear, you can help them trapped up there. Horse and lion, dog, giraffe, you can stop the wizard's laugh. Use your magic from the farm. Save your friends from evil harm. Language has the magic power. Save them from the wizard's tower. Crocodile and cat and bear, you can help them trapped up there. Horse and lion, dog, giraffe, you can stop the wizard's laugh. Use your words to cast a spell. Save them all, yes, the mouse as well. Language has the magic power. Save them from the wizard's tower.
So there you are, some smiley faces from Tenerife to start us off on the day. So you've picked up a little bit of the tune and you saw what the children were showing you. There were different aspects of the game, and the thing with the big cards they were holding up was a speaking activity, which is obviously not inside the game itself, but which is part of our additional resources. So my question to you is, those activities were all stimulated by playing the game, the characters of the game, the story of the game, and the nature of the game. And my question is that the sort of thing that your children in primary schools do after you've given them a test? It's a rhetorical question, because my suggestion is, no, it's not. When you're doing a test, sometimes at the end of it, you're a little bit worried, a little bit anxious, a little bit stressed. And the nature of this game, although it is, for us, a test, the children don't perceive it as a test. They see it as a game. So when I joined this project, which was just at the beginning of last year, as one of the ALL representatives, I looked at the brief of the programme, and these were the words I thought were the magic ones about the programme that was going to be interesting. So they were aiming to produce something that would be motivating. That's one of my words. You have to have a big word on a Friday morning for a conference, don't you? So you can write it down. So you can go back on Monday and say, we learned some really big words. It was very intellectual. So it's an activity, it's a test which is not chronophagous. Chronophagous is a word I made up, but it does sort of exist. It's from Greek roots, so chronos, the word for time, and phagi, something, which is the word for eat. So it's not a time-consuming task. Because one of the issues about assessment, particularly in our primary school colleagues' classrooms, is that if you're asked to do assessment of your pupils very regularly, as some schools ask, it eats up the time you've got available for your children to do any learning or for you to do any teaching. So the nature of this is that it's a game. They enjoy doing it. They learn some things from it as they're doing it. It doesn't take very much time. I'll come back to that in a moment. So it's not something that just devours all of your teaching and learning time. It is not chronophagous. It's international, and that's been a lovely part of the project, working with people from all those different countries and coming together and discovering how many things we had in common. There are obviously differences as well, particularly in terms of the support that different countries give to their language teachers. So one of our issues in the UK is the shortage of time that we're provided in the primary school, as well as the shortage of training and support and materials for our teachers. And that makes a big imbalance sometimes with some of the other countries. So in Spain, for example, the children there have 4 times as much language learning as we do, roughly. So that means that what they're doing is at different age points from what we're doing over here. And that created a sort of interesting balance to begin with. But game is the key thing. The children perceive it as a game. They enjoy playing it. They don't mind playing it again. It's not the sort of game that you're finished with after the first time you've played it, because it's designed to be randomized each time. So there are challenges in there, but the challenges are not the same every time. The questions move around, and the challenges move around as well. So this fits in very well with some work that we did in ALL last year and the year before. And if you have a look on the ALL primary page that you've just heard about from Annalise, if I can find the right page, there we are. So here's the primary page, the guidance for primary people. And if you look under the guidance here for head teachers, you'll see there's a section down here about assessment. And there are 2 documents in there that ALL Primary Steering Group has created. The first one there, that's called Assessment in MFL in Primary Schools, was produced by the Expert Subject Group, who were put together by the DFE and then by the Publishers Association. But the 2 other documents were written by members of ALL. The first one's called Assessment for ALL, and it talks about what assessment is for in the primary school and how we can try to organise it so that it is not chronophagous. So it's something we can do through observation, seeing pupils work, and not imposing tests on them all the time. The other one is a new one that's just appeared about a month or 2 ago about progression, and that's called Language Progression and Assessment at Key Stage 2. And that's taking a model that was produced in a project a couple of years ago and making it a bit more primary friendly. So if you haven't seen either of those documents, I would recommend you can have a look at those. But there's just a little quote from the Assessment for ALL document. Primary teachers are experienced in assessing across the curriculum, and the skills involved are the same. So we have to reassure those colleagues of ours who are worried about assessing in the language because they're not hugely confident with the language, that it's the same skill. They're looking for particular things. They're looking for confidence, willingness to explore the language in reading and writing when that becomes appropriate to the children. So, inside the language magician itself, we always write it in capital letters, by the way. There will be a test on that later on. Inside the language magician project itself, these are some of the magic words that are coming out of the work that we've been doing over the past few years. So it's an integrated bit of assessment. It's not stop-start. We've been doing some learning, now we're going to test it. We do some learning, now we're going to test it. It's not like that. It's a longer-term thing. It's offering a snapshot at a certain point of what children can do. So you're not supposed to teach them specific language before they do the game. It's to see what they can cope with, how resilient they are, how well they can have a go at something. And if there are weaknesses, if there are areas they're not very good at, then they can play it again in a term's time or a few months' time, and then they'll get better. So you can have a little bit of sense of progression in there too. So it's about concentration as well. That's where the randomization comes in. They can't just click the same place every time and hope to get through. But it's not something where they are punished if they get something wrong. So when they have a challenge, you'll see some of those in a moment, they have 2 goes at the challenge. If they don't get it the first time, they get a second go. If they don't get it the second time, then the game just moves on. It doesn't say you've got that wrong, it just moves on to the next question. So it's looking at skills as well as at knowledge. So it's not all about vocabulary, it's about whether they have their phonics, whether they can spot which word is being said when they hear a word in the foreign language. Can they spot which one it is, and vice versa. It's about resilience and concentration, and it's about whether they can organize words into a sentence, whether they can put words together to try and make something that they might have seen before. But the whole thing is a positive experience. It's all built around giving them the idea that they are doing something useful with their language. And that's how the whole story of the game works. The story of the game, you'll see in just a moment, is about rescuing the animals who we saw at the beginning, who've been captured by the wicked magician who wears a hat like that one over there. So be careful how you wear it. And the children use their knowledge of language and their skills to release the animals. So they're doing something very useful and something very humane. So what does the language magician look like is one of the activities in our classroom resources, as well as the game itself, which is online, freely available from our website. There are classroom resources and some of the resources I'll mention to you in a moment. The classroom resources are there so that teachers can introduce their class to the characters and the storyline and the nature of some of the challenges before they have a go at it, so that it's not a total surprise the first time the children play it. So one of those activities is, what do you think the language magician looks like? This is before they've seen him, obviously, before they've seen the game, and it's allowing the teacher to reactivate some of the language they might already have taught, descriptive language about what the physical description is of the person, what he might be wearing, what colour he might be wearing, all those sorts of things. That's one of the activities that's in there. The classroom resources, as you can see on my screen there, are divided into 3 modules. So there's 3 introductory lessons which you can use if you'd like to, or you can pick from if you'd like to, or you don't need to use if you don't want to. And then there is in module 2, activities which are to focus on areas where you've noticed that there were a number of children in the class who didn't do particularly well in that one. So it might be, say, phonics, it might be, say, spelling. And so there are activities to focus on those things to help them to get better before the next time they play the game. Our suggestion is that children are going to play the game twice in the academic year. There are 2 levels of the game, so that means twice in one year and twice in another year. If you want to use it more often, you could. You could play it 3 times or more if you felt like it. But if you play it at least twice, then you will get that sense of progression from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. I'll come back to those practicalities in a moment. And then module 3 is extra activities that you might use at the end of the year, or you might use just because they're in the style of the game, and your children do the same as the Canary children, and they say, we'd like to do an activity about that magician and that sort of thing. So they just give you ideas which are in the same style. So I'm going to show you a little bit now of the trailer, just to give you a visual impression of what it looks like.
What would you say if a foreign languages test for primary pupils looked like this? A dark tower, An evil magician.
I will use the magic power of my hat to steal all the animals from the farm.
And animals needing to be saved by your pupils. The pupils become young magicians themselves.
Oh, hello? It's so good to see you. Can you help? All of the animals are turned into door knockers.
You will never get your animals back.
Really, I think I can do that. At least I can try.
Take, table, cat, cattle. The books are between the windows. The girl is on the bike.
Yes, I can cast a spell now.
Just imagine, a pupil's language skills are the tools of rescue, regardless of how advanced or basic they may be. Your pupils will find that the foreign language skills they have been learning are the key to an exciting quest where they will fight the evil magician.
Congratulations. Winnieville has fled from the tower.
The pupils will have fun and will be rewarded with a certificate at the end. But for the teacher, there is more to come. Press the button and sit back. The test results for a class of up to 30 pupils will be downloadable in the blink of an eye. That's right, no marking. Assessment has never been easier, and progression can be shown if the test is repeated at a later stage. Testing without fear, evaluation by using reliable standards, and quality assessment using the latest technology, as well as all that fun.
Thank you very much.
Gracias.
Ich danke dir.
So you would see in there the idea again of the motivation, that the children are engaged by that idea. The idea of turning animals into door knockers is completely outrageous to children in Key Stage 2. They become really about it, and they really want to resolve those issues. So to release the animals, they have to gather the magic stars, which go into their wand, and then they can cast a spell to release the animal at the end of that section of the game. So that's what the game looks like in general. I'll come back to a few more examples in a moment. Casting the spell involves drawing some shapes, as you saw there. So we're just going to learn a little spell now, just to illustrate that if you wanted to do an activity alongside the game, in the style of the game, you could bring in other bits of language as well. So we're going to learn the names of these shapes in French, and then we're going to cast a spell with them. Donc, le cercle. Le carré, le trait, le triangle. Voilà. Cercle, carré, trait, triangle. Dans, sur, sous. Okay. Donc vous allez dessiner maintenant. You're going to do the spell for me. Donc dessinez un carré. Très bien, un carré. Sur le carré, un cercle. Dans le cercle, un triangle. Sous le carré, un trait horizontal. Sur le cercle, un trait vertical. Now you've got to cast a spell like this. Okay, so now you're all guaranteed a wonderful conference. You've cast the spell of happiness upon the conference. So my point is that we could integrate that into any other lesson that we might want to, but it would be in the style of the game, and it would fit in with the game if we've got some display in the classroom around it as well. That's my telephone ringing now. So the Language Magician is an online game, and it's at 2 levels. We're suggesting in the UK that level 1 is probably going to be most appropriate in year 5. Because of the language level, because the activities move on to sentence level activities quite quickly. So once you've got sentence level going, you could be thinking about using it, but it's possibly going to be year 5. So we suggest you might use it at the beginning of year 5 and at the end of year 5, and then move on in year 6 to the level 2 activities. The challenges are available in the 5 languages you can see there, and the story is told in the language of the home country. So in this country, the story will be told in English, as you've just been hearing in the demo, and then the tests could be in Spanish or French or German, or they could, I suppose, also be in English. If you have EAL pupils and you wanted to give them some sort of feeling of doing well at that sort of age, then you might give them the English questions to do as well. If you have very advanced pupils, then you could tell them the story in your target language. You could have your story in French or in Spanish or German, as well as your activities, if you had that sort of class in front of you. But the key thing is, for us as teachers, is that it's also, as well as being a game, a diagnostic tool. So at the end of playing the game, there is information which comes out in the form of a data sheet, which you can print out, that shows you how the pupils did in all of the different activities that they attempted. So whether they got the answer right the first time, the second time, or whether they didn't get it right. So you can see very visually how well the people have done, and you can target those areas where there was a general lack of awareness of what they were doing. So within the project, these are the different resources, all of which will be available from the website, and some of which will be available in hard copy as well. So the manual is there to tell you everything you need to know, all of your questions about how the game works, the technicalities, and how the things are put together, the types of tests that are in there, and contacts, and all those sorts of things are in the manual. The quick guide, of which there are copies over there, and you can pick one up later on, has more or less the technical setup, the things you need to check before you use it the first time. And that really is a quick guide. It's just a folded A3. There is a video tutorial. I'll show you a little clip of that at the moment. That's the one really to help you to set up with either by yourself in your school or with teachers you're working with, how they're going to do it the first time round. Because it shows you somebody doing it step by step, so you can see exactly how it goes, how it works. The Classroom Resources book I've already mentioned to you. That again will be available from the website as a PDF in all of the languages of the project, so French, German, Spanish, and Italian. Did I say Italian before? No, Italian as well. There's a separate speaking module. Speaking isn't incorporated in the game because the technology isn't quite there at the moment to help us to include speaking inside the online game, but it is as a separate module with activities in it so that you can set up activities in your classroom for assessing the children's speaking skills as well. And the song. You've heard the song in English. Again, the song is also available in all of the languages of the project, and they will be available from the website and possibly from YouTube as well. So here's an example from the Classroom Resources of the sort of thing that happens in one of the first lessons. When you're getting to know the magician, this is an interview with the magician, as you can see, with the questions on the left and the answers on the right, and it's a reading activity to match them up. That's followed up by a speaking activity where the children do a survey in the class and they go around to ask their colleagues the questions on the left and they try to write down the answers. It could also lead to a writing activity if you wanted to do that as well, of course. So that's the style of the sort of thing it's trying to give a visual impression of the characters they're going to meet and introduce the characters and which ones are the goodies and which ones are the baddies. So the song. So now we need to learn the vocabulary for the song so we can do it together at the end. So we're going to learn the names of some of these animals and the characters in French and in sign language. So that's 2 things to be learning at the same time. I can tell you're a highly able and motivated class, so you'll have no problems with this whatsoever. So these are the characters. Can you see the animals on there? I'll just tell you which one is which, starting from the lion and going round clockwise. And then I'll show you the words. Donc, le lion, l'ours, le cheval, l'éléphant, le chien, le magicien, le lapin, la souris, le crocodile, la girafe. Okay, so now I'm going to show you the word and we're going to learn the sign language along with the name of the French. So first we're going to learn le chapeau. This is proper sign language, by the way. I've had to revise all this for you, just for today. Les animaux. La girafe. Le cheval. Now, I'll put a question in there because you're a very talented linguist. We're going to do où est le cheval? Où est le cheval? Très bien. Le crocodile. My French godson says le crocodile because he thinks that sounds much better. He's only 4, so I let him off. Le crocodile. Le lapin. That's very hard for me because these fingers don't work independently. Le lapin. Le magicien. Le chien. All right, this is also hard. Two legs like that. Le chien. L'éléphant. Now this one, don't laugh. When I showed this to someone yesterday, they laughed. La souris. This is the proper sign for la souris. And it's supposed to be the sniffing. It's the sniffing, I'm sure, of the mouse's nose. It's not the mouse picking its nose, honestly. But it is memorable for that reason, isn't it? La souris. Très bien. So we'll come back to that later on. So alongside the development of the game, as I say, we've had a lot of researchers involved, researchers from the universities of Westminster and Reading in our country, University of Leipzig in Germany, universities of Siena and Perugia in Italy, and in schools as well in other parts of the project, to try to evaluate whether we got things at the right level, whether there were some activities that were too hard or too easy, whether children were engaged by it, and so on. So these are some of the key findings of that research, and reports on that will be appearing as well, by the way, on the website. So the game itself is short because we had to have something that would fit inside a language lesson in primary. And we know that language teachers sometimes only have half-hour lessons, or sometimes, if they're lucky, hour lessons. So the game is timed to last for 35 minutes. Once you switch it on, it runs for 35 minutes. You can't pause it, you can't stop it, it just runs for 35 minutes. Children who work quickly find extra activities at the end of it that they can play, but most children will find that it takes them most of that time to get all the way to the top of the tower. The research finds that children throughout the age range enjoy the game, so 5-year-olds as well as 10-year-olds, they all enjoy the game because of the nature of the graphics and so on. It appeals to them. The basis of it is challenges rather than tests. It's about trying to solve the problems, trying to pick the right answer. And that's why it's repeatable, because the challenges will be different if you try it at a different time. The vocabulary and the images will be different in there too. So children are motivated both by the fact that there is a certificate at the end of it that is automatically generated by the game for every child. There's a certificate that shows them how well they did on each of the floors of the tower that they managed to get to, and has got pictures of the characters and the animals and so on that they have saved on it. And there are also wands and stickers. And if you're at the launch this evening, which is connected to a wine reception, so you might well be at the launch, there is a prize giving there, and in the prizes are included class sets of the pencils. This is the sort of character...
It would be like tonight.
That's right. Thank you very much. So this is Roma, who's from the Goethe Institute and the coordinator of the project. And it's gone a bit to her head, it has to be said.
Exactly.
So I was just saying there will be pencil cases with pencils in the prizes. Yes. And the pencils look like magic wands, so you could use them as your wands as you're doing your activities. Thank you for that. It was very exciting, Roma. I wasn't expecting a visual aid.
She's not evil, though, is she?
She's not evil. However, I have to tell you that she has, bizarrely enough, she's about to move. She's moving jobs on Tuesday. And she has purchased, for the purpose of our conference, a cauldron. So there will be a proper witch's visitor's cauldron there this evening. How she's going to get it to Leipzig afterwards, I've got no idea. So some practical questions. When you'd use it, I think, as I say, it's probably going to be using level 1 in year 5 and level 2 in year 6. If you have more time or you have more advanced classes, you might want to use it earlier than that. But as I say, it does start to get into short sentences quite quickly. That's why I've said that. So at the start of the game, which I'll show you in the tutorial in just a moment, you choose your languages. So you choose the storyline language and you choose the test language. You do that, the children don't need to do that, and then it's automatically the same for all of them on all of their machines. So they choose their avatar. You saw the avatar flashing by just now on the demo. Do you remember? It was kept on changing its image. You choose what your avatar is going to look like, whether you're going to be a boy or a girl, whether you're wearing a hat, a cloak, trousers, colour of your hair, all those things. You choose that while the teacher is getting ready and setting everything up. That's something that they do by themselves. The challenge is to try and get to the top of the tower, because that's the way you're going to find the wizard and be able to try to defeat him. And the timing, as I say, is critical. The children don't know about the timing. There's nothing on the game that tells them how far they've got into the game or how long has gone. You can see the timing on your teacher dashboard, which I shall come back to in just a moment. So I'll show you a little bit of the demo now. If I can just, yes, it should be there, shouldn't it? Here. No, here. Okay. So you see, I choose the language for the support language. I'm going to choose English again. And you choose the language of the game. I'm going to choose Spanish. My Spanish isn't brilliant, so if I make a mistake, I don't want to be corrected. Thank you. I shall learn from my mistakes later on. Here I'm going to come up with my first bit. My in-game name, it has to be a name of at least 3 letters. 3 alphabetical letters. It can be a bit longer if you want to. We're suggesting that you give the children a nickname, because otherwise they'll spend 20 minutes trying to think of a nickname. So you make them up and you make a note of them before they play, so you've got their real names next to their nicknames. They're using nicknames because of data protection. We don't want people to have any of their personal details anywhere else. SFA, when I was a classroom teacher, this was my code on the school timetabling software. I was known as SFA. Sweet Fanny Adams, my colleagues called me, and I have never got over that. I'm just still suffering under that now. And that was quite a long time ago. So here I am going to choose my avatar. I think I'm going to have shorter hair, and I'm going to have that face, going to have spiky hair, going to wear a little cloak, and then you can change the colours of the things. You can play with that for a little while. So that's what they're playing with while you're getting the game set up and making sure it's all working. And then they click on the start game, and they get the countdown. They put on their headphones. I've got no sound. Beat. Got sound again. There we go. Once upon a time, there was a young magician who lived on a farm. The young magician is you. Your best friends are the farm animals. If the animals need something, you help them out, sometimes with magic spells.
Hello, nice to see you. I'm so hungry.
And then you have to press on continue when you're ready to go on.
Can you make some magic food for me?
You can cast lots of spells, but only when your magic wand is full of magic. See, it's empty at the moment at the top of the screen there. And this is how you do the spells. You get these clues, like this little handle helps you out if you're not sure where to click next. Plátano, that's that one. Caballo. Où est le cheval? And there's my magic stars I need to collect. So this is much easier to do if you're using a touch screen, by the way, because you can just do that with your finger. If you're using a mouse, it takes you a little while to do it. So I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to close that one down for now. If I close that, will it close the whole lot? Yeah, I don't want to do that, do I? Okay, well, you'll have music now. Could we turn the music down, Pete, maybe? Thank you. So the challenges were designed by our academic colleagues as well, who are experts in researching primary education around the country. They were based on international comparisons between the countries involved, the language content, and the types of test. So there were things to test, the sorts of things that they test in all the different countries. So all of the countries have an interest in listening, all of the countries have an interest in speaking, all of them have an interest in reading. Some of them do some writing, and some of them do some phonics. As we do phonics, there are phonics in there as well, because our colleagues at the Goethe Institute who are leading the project wanted a very UK-friendly project in there as well. So it's about showing what they can do as well as what they know. This is the key thing to be saying to teachers, those colleagues who are from our ALL primary hubs who are working with teachers. It's not the sort of assessment where you teach and then you test. This is a longer term thing. It's like what we're going to be moving towards in secondary education now as well. The GCSE now is expecting people to remember things until the end, not just learn them for a short term period. So it's not something you teach towards. It doesn't matter particularly to the children if they don't get the answer right. They're not upset by it. They don't see it, and there's nothing comes up that says you got that wrong. It just moves on. So that's not a worry for them. But at the end of it, when you see the results, you can see if there are areas where they need to target a bit more. So the idea of capturing progression is, as I say, if they were to play the game once at the beginning of the year and again at the end of the year, you will see that they've got further up the tower, they've got more things right first time, or they've been able to get right to the top and to defeat the wizard. So that's where you get that information. A lot of schools, a lot of teachers are asked by their senior management for data, for information about how they are showing that children are making progress. And this information is that sort of data because it's devised by proper academics and it's available across Europe. So it's going to be available to you. You'll be able to compare the data you see on your data sheet. You can obviously compare all the children in your class. You can also compare it with other children in your country. You can compare it with other children in other countries who played the game. And indeed, you can compare it with all children who have ever played the game anywhere in the world. So there is a great deal of comparability built in there. So here's another example from the teacher's notes. This one's a phonics activity. So they're talking about Winnieville casting a spell. The teacher is going to be taking the part of Winnieville. They might have a hat to demonstrate the fact that they are being the magician. So they're going to say the spell with the right word on the end of it. The children have to listen and draw a circle around the word they think is the word on the end. So it's about spotting the differences between those similar words, which one it is that fits on the end. They could, of course, then as well, if they wanted to, make up some spells of their own with a little bit of creative writing for those who have a future in magic. So I've just told you that. Those are some of the things that are similar. The content is similar across the different countries and the outcomes are similar, but the curriculum time is often very different in the different countries, and that causes a slight, when you look at contrasting performance, that's why you'll see differences. But it's also perhaps an argument to make to your head teachers or your local authorities or whoever you might be working with about having more time or more resourcing to help you to do that. So the team who's been working on the Language Magician is represented by the logos on there. We have some members of our team with us today. You've just seen Roma coming in, who's the project coordinator from the Goethe Institute in London. But we've also got down at the front here, we've got Jesus from the Consejería, and at the back, Concha from the Consejería, who've been working on this as some of the Spanish partners. And we have Esther, who's joined us from La Rioja, so she has ventured across the water to discover what Hinckley Island is like. And then we have partners in the Italian consulate. You can see the University of Westminster, Leipzig University, University of Reading. There's the CIEP Norte. Those are the people in Tenerife who had those children we've just seen. And who have I missed? University of Perugia and of Siena and so on. So those people have been involved in every aspect of the project, which is funded by Erasmus+, which means that by the time it becomes available to you, which is basically after this evening, it doesn't have any cost. You can use it cost-free. The downloads are all free as well. So it's all been paid for by our wonderful friends at Erasmus+. Long may they remain our wonderful friends. And these are some of the roles that those people have been taking, just in case you're interested to find that out, or talking to one of them about some of the work that's been going on. Now we need to move towards our performance, obviously, because you might probably be forgetting these by now. Do you remember this one? How about La Souris? See, no one's going to forget La Souris. So the tutorial is online, and it's showing how you set this thing up. I'm going to show you a bit of this because it gives you some of the technical things in there as well. So I think it might be this one.
What do you need to play the game? Computer, laptop, iPad or tablet for each pupil, internet connection, one set of headphones per pupil. You need an access code. Go to our website and fill in the required data. Read the terms and conditions and agree to them. Within 24 hours of submitting your data, an access code will be generated.
So that's a key bit of information. When you register, it takes 24 hours for your password to come back to you. You need your password to get onto the teacher area to open the game for your children to play. So don't think the day before, oh, I'll do that now, because you might not have your 24 hours. The 24 hours is just there so that the technical people can check that you are a real teacher and not someone who's doing some sort of scam or doing something with child abuse in it.
You need a data sheet. Prepare a data sheet with your pupils' names and give each of them a nickname. Nicknames must consist of at least 3 alphabetical letters. As a teacher, you open the teacher's dashboard first to create a session. Fill in the data. Choose level 1 or 2. Agree to the conditions and set a new session by pressing New Test Session. A code with 4 letters will appear. Now you need to open this session on all the devices for your pupils.
So you open the game in the teacher area, and then the children open the game on their computers from the game part of the website. And they put in that 4-letter code, or if you want to, you can go around and put in the code if you don't trust them to put the right code in. And then when they do that, all of their machines join up with yours, and then when you press start, they all start at the same time. So can you use it in more than one class at the same time? I think...
No, if a teacher can have several classes.
Yes. Oh, yes, certainly, yes. Yes, this is just for one event, yes. And the data, once it's there, once it's recorded how your children have done, the data is stored there for a while, so you can go back to it. So if you forget to print your certificates, you can go back and print them later on. Okay. So 24 hours to get your password. And that's your password, and you must keep that to yourself. Don't give children your password, because otherwise they might go and play the game elsewhere, and that would confuse all of the data and so on. So that's your password to keep to yourself. So a note to the sensitive, we call it the teacher dashboard, but our techie people who are in Austria call it, I'm going to say this very slowly, They refer to it as the teacher back end. I find that very, very offensive. I don't want anyone looking at my back end at any point whatsoever. So try to remember it's the teacher dashboard. That's where you're going to have all the information. So you can look at the dashboard while the children are playing, and it'll show you how well they're getting on through the game. If you want to tell them how much time they've got left, you can tell them because the information is on there. And then at the end, you click on the thing to say all the data, they've finished, the data's been saved, and that's when you can download the certificates and your data sheet with your information. You may want to take a screenshot of that data sheet before you download it, just for security. Okay, there's an example of what the certificate looks like that the learners would all get. They will have their nickname on there, obviously, because that's the only name that's been given to the game. But if you want to write their real name on, you're welcome to do that. That's entirely up to you. This is what the data sheet looks like. That's just an entry for one pupil. So you can see that the green boxes are the ones where they have got the question right at the first attempt. The yellow ones are where they've had to have 2 attempts, and the red ones are either where they haven't got to or where they haven't quite got the idea. The different floors of the tower are grouped like that. So the first floor of the tower, you might be able to see, is the first line over there, reading and listening. The second floor is listening. The third floor is reading. The fourth floor is what we call integrated skills. So there's a mixture of skills and a bit of thinking skills in there. And the top floor is writing. There's not very much for writing because a lot of our countries don't do much writing in the primary sector. So that's not a stressful thing, and it comes right at the end of the game. Okay, so here we're going to do now our performance. So now I need to hear, I'm going to read you the words of the song, and when we come to one of the words you know, you've got to say it and show me the sign at the same time. Okay, you've got the idea? La magie du emprisonne les La Tu dois sauver tes amis. Mais où sont-ils? Ils sont dans la tour du magicien. Tu peux les sauver. Sauve le chien. La magie, you can do it all now, can't you? Because you've heard it once. Off you go.
La magie du chapeau emprisonne les animaux, l'éléphant et la souris.
Tu dois sauver tes amis. Ton pouvoir est dans la magie des mots. Isn't that a lovely idea, a lovely concept? Okay, so now we're going to see if we can do it with the music. Are you ready? La magie du chapeau emprisonne les animaux. La girafe, la souris, tu dois sauver tes amis. I've started much too high, haven't I? Où est le cheval, le crocodile? Où est le lapin? Mais où sont-ils? Ils sont dans la tour du magicien. Tu peux les sauver, sauve le chien. La magie du chapeau emprisonne les animaux. Du. Ton pouvoir est dans la magie des mots. Sauve les animaux, prends le chapeau. Ils sont dans la tour du magicien. Tu peux les sauver, sauve le chien. Très bien. So maybe by now you've got other words you'd like to add to that list when you're talking about it, and as you move to your next session in just a moment, you might be adding some words to that list. If you want to send them out on the Twitter, then please do so. And where to look next, this is your next destination. Everything is going to be on that website. You'll find a handout and a flyer in your pack with the web addresses on. It's also on the brief guide, which you can pick up from the front over here. And If you are in London on the day of the royal wedding and you haven't been invited to the royal wedding, you are invited to the Language Magician Final Conference, which is at the University of Westminster, so do come along to that too. Thank you very much for coming along. Have a lovely conference, and now it's time for you to carry on playing.